Welcome back to episode 45 of the Xbox North podcast. This week we have a special episode for you guys. We have our good friend, the Wandering Dutch, joining us tonight. This week we're also going to be talking some NFTs. I've been wanting to actually talk about NFTs with you, Dutch. We're also going to be talking about Sony's big investment into Epic Games. And we got confirmation that Certain Affinity will be working on the future of Halo Infinite going forward. But with that out of the way, please like, subscribe, and share it out if you guys can. But Dan, how you been doing?
Well, I've been doing pretty good. Been playing some more DayZ. Been trying to get into some of my other games too whenever I have a chance. But they just released a new little server that's a lot more fast-paced on DayZ that I started playing. It's called Dark Plus. And it's basically like it gets super dark at nighttime and everybody spawns in like a really high populated area. And there's like way more zombies. There's more weapons and stuff modded in and everything. So it's a lot quicker pace because you can jump in and like try and murder some people or die a bunch of times trying. And it's pretty fun. There's lots of zombies in that one too now. A lot more than I'm used to, so. I think you're on mute.
I am on mute, yes. That game is like straight up the apocalypse. Every time I see it go down and like when I like hop into your parties with everyone and just like hearing everyone chat and just like, oh, is that you on top of the tower? And he's like, nope, that guy's shooting at me. Like,
yep.
I really hope
we got a pretty good team and like try and talk to them and everything. You know, get a good match going. Have you ever played DayZ, Dutch?
Yeah,
I attempted to when it first came onto the Xbox, and it was unplayable. So I uninstalled it. Hopefully it's patched now and it works a little bit better, but it was unplayable.
It works okay, but I mean, it is like it's based on like a 16-year-old game or something like that. So like Arma's pretty old now, and like so they really got to redo it at some point. But
it was more the servers when I went on, because like a lot of the time the servers that you would get were really poor, and it would take probably the good part of like 15, 20 minutes to find a game. And I was like,
oh yeah.
Yeah,
it's not too bad now. They did pretty good. They've upped that like just the amount of community servers now. So they've got like a standard server section and a community server. And I started off on the like standard servers and everything, but I quickly ended up going over to the community servers because they were a little cooler. Like, found one server with a Discord and everything too, and you can join teams, so you can play against like these other guys. There's a trash talking thing. There's a kill feed for it and everything, so you can see who killed you and kind of go after them and stuff. And that seems to be like the better way I've found playing DayZ. Like, it's one of those games where you have to have like another device or laptop or something next to you to play it.
Yeah, I feel like, and it also comes down to like the person running the server has a lot to do with it, like how dedicated you guys can get at trying to go to war with each other, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Like they arrange all sorts of events, and they modded us in this like massive base and everything too, just because our blue team grew to a certain size. And now, like, all the other teams have, like, special bases and stuff, too, that are modded in, but they're not quite as big. And they all have, like, their advantages and disadvantages and stuff. Like, our base, every once in a while, it'll just get gassed. And, like, most of the base, you can't just go in it at all.
But I'm trying to take you away from that to play Remnant. Did you ever play Remnant from the Ashes, Dutch?
Yes, a long time ago. Ago.
We started
playing the recent next-gen patch, haven't they?
Yeah, they did patch it. Runs really good. I've been getting Dan to play that. What have you been thinking of that, by the way?
It's been really good. It's been like, it's kind of comparable to Elden Ring even, and just like, but with more guns and stuff.
Yeah, with guns, essentially.
Yeah, with guns. It's like post-apocalyptic, like, I guess you kind of have magic and stuff, but that's not quite a gun. So,
the game is fun.
No, it's been really fun. It's tough. It's a lot more fun to play when we're playing together, because I've been trying to take on some of the bosses myself, and you die a lot.
Oh yeah. we're trying to condition ourselves before we hit up Elden Ring, Dutch. So wish us luck right there. It's funny because I have Elden Ring downstairs. My friend got it, and we're game sharing right now. So it's there, but I'm like, I just finished Guardians of the Galaxy, so I have no excuse not to kind of crack into that right now.
So by the opposite, I started Elden Ring and then Guardians of the Galaxy come into Game Pass, and I was like, right, okay, I'll start Guardians of the Galaxy. And then I've played probably up to chapter 5 of that now, maybe chapter 6. But I was so deep into Elden Ring, and I'm like, I'm only like 30 plus hours into Elden Ring, but I'm level 100, so I've put a lot of
time into
that anyway. It's awesome, but because there isn't a real route as to where you go at any one point, like you have to look up where to go, unless you're like this mega explorer. Otherwise, you're just there forever. Like as Boom keeps testifying, like he's like 175 hours in now.
Dude, every time I see him online, I'm just like, oh, he's on Elden Ring. And I'm like, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. He's on Elden Ring.
Yeah. It's insane. Like without a form of guide to know where to go, you'll just be stuck in that game forever. So I've given it a break now because I've only got past the second actual boss, like excluding like these side bosses you find, and it's just now to the point where I'm like, well, it gives me no indication as to where this next place is, or where I'm meant to be going next, what I'm meant to be doing, who is the next boss, where is the next boss. No idea. I just keep traveling into places that are well above my grade.
Annihilated. It was like playing a World of Warcraft back in the day. You're just like, I'm just going to walk into this zone, and you just get your ass handed to you like right away. It was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here yet. But the game just doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
Very cool.
From the videos I've seen online too of like guides to find special weapons and stuff, I end up watching those every once in a while. And yeah, it's just like, it's unfathomable, like which direction you're even going. Like 5 minutes into the video, because they're just like, oh yeah, you just run down here, like go into this building. Like, no, that's all fine. And you go around this corner and jump off this and onto a roof here, and then over this way, and then you got to climb back up, and then you got to go over here and through a secret door. And like okay, like I'm gonna have to watch this like second for second of trying to play it.
That's what baffles me. Like I watch some of these guides, I'm like, yeah, but who told you? Like, how
right. Like
all of this.
That's what I'm thinking. And especially like when it's a game like that where like the game is designed to be like super obscure and just like, hey, it's down there. Have fun. Good luck. Don't die. We know you will.
Like you said, like all these secret doors that are like you have to hit a literal concrete wall that looks no different to any other concrete wall 14 times, and that's the door. Like, what do you mean it's the door? It's just the wall. Like it looks like
a wall.
But this, how would someone figure that out? Like, how did someone take the time to figure out like this wall? Like, did he clip like into the wall a little bit and just being like, I saw a room behind it, and just like got obsessed? Like,
that's all I can do.
How does that even happen? It's outrageous. But
like somewhere in there, there's like a book or something, or somebody tells you, and it's just like, oh yeah, you just got to go this direction here, and like 5 paces this way and 7 paces that way, and then 50 times, and it's going to be a riddle or something.
Someone's going to make this like beautiful leather-bound journal of this game that has like watercolor like pictures, like a person does like on their journey like through like Europe or something like that. And it's just like a guide for Elden Ring. That'd be so awesome. Like that'd be amazing.
Like Lord of the Rings like maps, like really obscure.
Maps
drawn by
like you go over here, and he actually draws like the actual look of the area.
Like, mountains on a bit of paper, and he's like, right, that you need to go there. Doesn't tell you how far that is. It's like, go there.
That'd be great for like a collector's edition, like item or something. Like, I'm surprised they didn't release something like that.
Yeah,
I think they did like a map or some, or like a sword or something. These collector's edition are insane. And watch, they'll probably be like, you know what, the game was so successful, let's do a bigger collection edition when Christmas rolls around. So They're just like,
Yeah.
we didn't capitalize enough on it. So
They did.
But,
They did a normal collector's edition for like a standard one, which was a statue of Melania, which was one of the main bosses. But then they had another super collector's edition above that wasn't for sale, which was Melania's helmet. And then they had another one, which was Melania's, which was the sword from Elden Ring.
Yeah. I saw the guy who does like the white gloves.
Yes.
Unboxings on YouTube. Unbox the sword.
Insane how popular that guy is, considering he does nothing but just...
Yeah, he just like it's just his hands and like straight silence. It's just like he nailed it. So it's just like you hear like those people are just like, you know, put a video of just white noise and just see if it generates you money. Right? Yeah, just like stupid stuff. But besides Elden Ring, Dutch, what have you been playing? What have you been up to?
Fortnite, no build mode.
I was watching a bit of your buddy playing that today.
Yes, yeah, Pat,
yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome actually, and Shams showed us a little bit more of the creative or created modes within that, and there's actually more of a Among Us style game mode that they've got in there as well, which actually works better than Among Us does.
It's funny how that works, right?
And yeah,
I wonder if that's why Among Us's popularity is going down.
Oh, it could very well be, because it's actually really fun, but it also goes towards, funnily enough, you can still level up towards your season passes and battle passes and things using that. So all these creative modes, you don't need to play Battle Royale. You can play any of the creative modes and level up really quickly. But it's actually really fun the way they do it. You still do your tasks like you would in Among Us. You still murder people and try to hide away from it and sabotage everything. So it's pretty much identical, to be honest. Just it's instead of tiny little cartoons running around, it's obviously Fortnite characters running around this big spaceship.
More virtual. They have more 3D and stuff. More.
Yeah. Really good, really good fun. Besides that, obviously Elden Ring, a few different indies that I've been playing recently, and then like you say, Guardians of the Galaxy when I eventually get back on that. That's
so good. I beat that last night. Not gonna lie, I was shedding some tears by the end of that game. Like that, there's some moments at the end. I'm so shocked how well acted that game is and well realized the characters are. And there's a moment with Quill at the end that is just like, as like a dad, it hits you way harder as a father, just like coming to that realization. So let me know what you think by the end of it. But that game deserves way more praise than what it got, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
And I hear it's finding a good audience right now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is for a particular reason. We know, to be honest, though, and I've said this many times over, Square Enix really have a distaste for their Western studios, so it did well. They just don't want to say that.
Well, it's like, I don't know if it's like a pride thing, because in my opinion, their Western developers outshine their Japanese developers. I would say 75, if not 85% of the time. Like IDOS Montreal, Deus Ex, those two Deus Ex games are awesome. Their step into the Tomb Raider game was quite good too, in my opinion. And Guardians of the Galaxy just proves that they can even do like a comedic like romp space adventure game that totally like diverts out of their comfort zone.
I feel like they hate them, and it's weird. And I've mentioned this a few times as well, because the sales figures, I think, for Guardians of the Galaxy and even Marvel's Avengers, etc., were pretty much on par with every Final Fantasy that's ever released. So, and they're like, oh, it's a failure. Like, well, you never ever see this for Final Fantasy, and they're always exactly the same in terms of sales figures. So it's not a failure. It's you just don't want, and the fact that they come out and publicly lambast them as well and call them like a failure and say it's not performed. I'm like, well, you've never said this about Final Fantasy, yet Final Fantasy VII Remake hasn't performed. Like in terms of a sales aspect that they would have hoped, it's like less than 10 million. And there's a reason for that. It's because they've still had it on one platform.
Yeah, and like by the time it came out on PC, no one cared.
Nope.
I really wish developers would understand that, like, it's not worth locking yourself, like taking that check sometimes, especially with big franchise like that, and locking yourself to a platform and not having that PC release on day one as well. Yeah. Like that, I found like weird. The fact that it wasn't PlayStation and PC. That seems to be the deal going forward now. But when that, and it took like just over like a year, almost 2 years for it to come out on PC, and then when it did, it was a garbage port. Like you had 2 years to work on this thing.
Yeah.
Like, what happened there?
And still just PC and PlayStation, which makes no sense because it's Final Fantasy has been a multi-plat game for a long time now. It's just a weird predicament to have. I still say going forwards, and I'm probably talking next year onwards, it's going to be more of a battle of subscription services. So third parties it'll be who gets the third party in their service as opposed to timed exclusivity. So of course the Xbox will have it releases everywhere, but it's in Game Pass, and then PlayStation will be like, it releases everywhere, but it's in PlayStation Plus, so you don't have to get it there. We can just as long as you've got premium, you can play it with us, and you don't have to pay for it. That'll be the new exclusivity, and that is a world I don't mind, because then you've got a reason to go, right, okay, well, I'm still purchasing their games, I'm still getting the occasional third party, but I'm going to fit on each of these services, and I'm going to get games on each one of them. So it'll have an actual reason to have them both, other than just first party, because first party for both of the coins are hit and miss. You'll not like everything both companies have to produce.
No, exactly. Yeah. And back to IDOS, it's so sad when the developer has to come out and just be like, "Oh, we were happy with the performance of our game." And you're just like, "Oh, that's so that's so embarrassing to have to like come out and be like, yeah, our daddy said we did crap, but we felt like we did good today." So
yeah, that's pretty much what it was. It's a strangely negative view to have on it.
Yeah.
It's just good. It's the outlook on it. Unfortunately, it's Square Enix's outlook on Western studios. They're Western studios, to be precise. And they've done it on numerous occasions now, is publicly lambast them, publicly put them down, say they're not good enough, say they haven't performed good enough. But there's evidence to show that they haven't reciprocated the same for their Asian studios when their products haven't performed. Like, if you have a look at Strangers of Paradise, like that is not performed at all. That is.
I'm surprised that wasn't in Game Pass, to be honest, or something like that.
Yeah. And have you seen them come out and publicly say, "Well, that didn't perform"?
It was chaos.
I haven't.
That game was straight chaos. Oh God, that's so weird. All right. Well, before we kind of get into, what I've been playing is I just finished. I essentially went over what I was playing with you guys, but I finished Guardians of the Galaxy, and I've been playing Remnant from the Ashes with Dan. And you can see, if you're playing the video, you can see my Tunic gameplay going on right now. So that was a fun game. Still very close to the end, but that game is pretty punishing. But before we kind of get into...
Light.
Sorry, what?
Elden Ring Light.
Yeah, Elden Ring Light for sure. It's so funny when you see like a secret pathway in that game. You're like, was that door always there? You're like, oh man. But before we kind of get into our topics this week, I want to get the audience to know you, but I'm sure they do already. But I kind of want to go over just a couple questions with you before we get into the heart of the show. So, Dutch, what's your favorite gaming console and your favorite game? with that.
Favorite gaming console of all time or favorite gaming console currently?
I'd say all time. Yeah, what one got you that like spark to play like video games and really set your world on fire, right?
Yeah, so the first gaming console that I owned personally, that wasn't just like a gaming console in the family that everyone played. Like everyone had that uncle's house or someone like that you went round to, and they had the console, and you were playing theirs, and then that was it. And then you'd go home and just wait to go back to your uncle's house again to play the consoles.
Yeah, it was my cousin's house for me.
It was my uncles had the SNES, the NES, and the Sega Mega Drive and everything. So that was first consoles I played. But no, the first one I owned and that got me into gaming. And speaking of Square Enix, was the PlayStation, the PlayStation 1 and Final Fantasy. And I was hooked on Final Fantasy on the PlayStation 1 like since I can remember. Like 7 and 9 are the standouts. Little parts of 8 stand out as well, but I wasn't as fond of the whole story. But I did like the beginning part of the story, which is weird. So for those who have played Final Fantasy VIII, you'll remember kind of more of this like military school at the very beginning of the game. Yeah. And then you've got the beach landing. And that beach landing scene always stands out to me, where you're all going in as for the first time and you have to face that big spider and the town's getting attacked and everything like that.
Oh, they're revolver swords? Like those things were cool, man. Like I thought those were so cool. Yeah. So,
yeah. So it was, the PlayStation 1 and the Final Fantasies got me into that. Coming in from school every day on one of those big old chunky TV/VCR combo units, and playing Final Fantasy 7 from the moment I got in until I had to go to bed for school the next day, and that was literally my life for a long time. Over and over again, Final Fantasy for a long time.
That's funny. I had a similar experience. I'd go to my cousin's during the holidays, and he'd be playing Final Fantasy, but it would be on the Super Nintendo, so it'd be like Final Fantasy 6 and stuff like that.
Got them later on, because they brought them out. I've got them all behind us, actually, all the CDs over there. They brought out like an anthology, which was like a collection that came out on the PlayStation 1 that you could buy, and it was on sale. At the time, so I bought the anthology and went back and played all of the old Final Fantasy 1 through 6 on the PlayStation 1 as well.
It's funny.
I never played much of the Final Fantasy games and everything. I was always playing like Legend of Zelda and stuff.
Yeah. It was the stories for me. Like 9, I don't know about you, Josh, but 9's my like total favorite of all time. If I had to. Like
with Vivi and stuff,
gun to the head, and someone said pick it, it would be 9. I think the story specifically with Vivi, which was like the little mage, the story surrounding him specifically was much more intriguing than any other story I'd seen, because he was having to come to the realization that he wasn't real. He was like a mass manufactured mage that came off like a production line. He was like, no, this can't be right, and he had like. And it was that realization, and going through that with that character was like much more of a standout, prominent thing than I'd played in Final Fantasy VII, which is obviously lauded one of the best.
There's also kind of like a return to form with 9 as well. Like it went back to the more medieval setting of Final Fantasy, where 7 and 8 really diverted to this more fantasy future look to Final Fantasy, which was not the norm for Final Fantasy at all. So 9 was definitely a change back. Aren't they making a TV show based off 9?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're doing like some. Do a Google search if I'm wrong, but I think they are doing something with Final Fantasy 9 right now, either a remake or a show.
We're doing a 9 remake as well.
Yeah.
Which
I know I played 9 not too long ago.
Based on 7's remake standings, which is like releasing 45 million parts over the course of the next 300 years. We'll probably never see the end of it. So
Let me see. Show. Animated series, yeah. There's going to be an animated series based off Final Fantasy IX coming out.
Nice. Do you think it'll be similar to like the League of Legends like Arcane show?
If it, God, I hope so, because that is like top 5 animated things in general of all time. Like Arcane, that show is incredible. There is some amazing scenes in that. I watched just recently the Corridor Crew break down, like they do like stuntman react or animators react, and they reacted to that scene where Jinx fights her friend, the guy with like the white hair and the black kid with the white hair and the skull like face paint. And they like fight each other, but it like switches back to their childhood, to the game they used to play. Like, and they're just like, this scene is just like genius, the way it's broken down, the framing of it. It's just, that show is quite incredible. Do
you have any, I was going to maybe ask you another question there. What's your favorite gaming memory? Be it like with friends, like in real life or whatever, or like just an in-game moment or something? What would you say is your favorite?
So the one that always stands out to me, of course, I've got loads from over the years, more recently and so on, but the one that stands out, of course, for me is more the first real good online multiplayer, competitive / friendly moment that I had. Which was on Gears 1 and Gears 2 online when that first came out. It was just me and my mate, and would play all the time and would go online and just play multiplayer matches. But then we came across these other two that were playing, and we played a 2v2. And it was quite clearly just two mates as well that were doing exactly what we were doing. And then we ended up just having repetitive games against them as opposed to finding new people all the time. So it was ended up being this like ultra competitive against these two guys that we'd never met before that also ended up happened to be living in the UK, just a different part of the UK. So they were doing the same thing and we were doing the same thing, and then we ended up being friends on opposite sides and just playing against each other forever. But it was so fun just playing on that all the time, and like specifically before they did, obviously Gears went into the realms, especially online now, where if you don't know how to do all this wall hopping, sliding around stuff, back then it was a case of if you could get that shotgun shot off really quickly, you were good. Now it's just about the sliding and the wall hopping, but back then it was just
man's game now.
Yeah. It's a proper. How do you put it? I would say more of an esports game now. Much more of an esports game, like Twitch reactions and things. Back then it wasn't. But yeah, it was such an awesome moment. What you would want from an actual multiplayer game in terms of competitive, but also friendly. Not like the old school Modern Warfare lobbies and things like that, where everyone was just toxic and hated each other. And just that was it. But no, it was awesome. The Gears community back then was just insane. So good.
Don't you find people were on the mic a lot more back in the day, especially like early Xbox
you go
original
into a
days?
lobby now and it's dead. Like no
Not
one's
even.
talking.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's when they stopped packaging a mic with the console. I remember when you bought an Xbox, it always came with a headset, at least from the 360 era on. But like when you had the original Xbox, like my gamer tag is like 18 years old now. It's old. So I remember you got like a box and it gave you like a year of Xbox Live, and it came with the headset that you plugged into the top of the controller and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. It's so funny when like you're playing online and you're like, oh, those guys are just like across, like over there. You're like not even terribly far.
Yeah.
That's
It was literally just a couple of hours away, and it was just two best friends. Like me and my mate. It was just two best friends that happened to be playing at the same time and on opposing teams. So it was like really ultra competitive, but also like funny, and we knew we were just like joking with each other and things, but it was like in between because we weren't even in party chat with each other, so it was in between rounds. We're like joking on with each other, and then the next round would kick in. It was such a good time. Loved it. But I still fondly remember it. And like you say, there's plenty of other times as well, like when PUBG first released on consoles, having so much fun with that. So much fun and ridiculous, like just playing around. And the thing is with PUBG, though, is you've got a lot of time to just have jokes around with your friends in between actually doing anything. Because a lot of the time it's just looting and then running.
I remember I played a lot of that with my
conversation.
Brother. Yeah, and we used to just like, you'd get a car or something, and we'd just play Can You Ramp It? And just find something that you can ramp. Just a nice big hill or something, and see how high you could get the car going.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just wandering around, you see a bunch of people, they're just like goofing off, and you just like lay on the hill and just watch them for a bit and then snipe one.
It was the glitches and things as well. Like I've still got a few clips recorded from when the game first hit consoles, when it was buggy as out. Really, really buggy. And they had like, obviously in most video games occasionally you'll get like invisible walls or invisible bricks or something that just stops a vehicle dead. Well, that happened multiple times, and even falling when you're not falling. And there was like so many clips, and just catching them live, specifically when I was streaming at the time as well, was just so funny. Like the car just stopped, and then all of a sudden flipped upside down, and then started breakdancing just in circles. And I was just like, "What is going on?" And it was like, so the friend somehow got out the car, I didn't, and then the car just exploded, like whilst spinning. I just could do nothing but laugh. The next one, motorbike, exactly the same place on the map from what just happened. The motorbike ramped up a wall, and then my guy just started falling forever, even though it was like an inch off the floor. Fall, dead. I was like, this is literally the same spot that I've just killed myself in previously. How is this happening?
And you're like, hasn't this game been out for like a year too, like on PC? And isn't it like the biggest game to come out on Xbox this year? There was so much marketing behind that game.
I mean, it's still the best. To be honest, it is still, in terms of like battle royales and final circle feeling, it's still, without the shadow of a doubt, the best battle royale there is. Like in terms of its performance and things, it's a bit hit or miss, but the intensity that you get from that final circle on PUBG is unlike any of the battle royales, because you can't see anybody, you don't know where they are, and everyone is super stealthy.
Like, somebody's got a ghillie suit sitting in a bush right next to you.
When you fire that round off, everyone knows where you are, and you're like,
Oh yeah. Like I hear the soundscape in that game is pretty good, like really good.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I'd love to see Halo actually have
like it's a game where attachments actually matter, because if you're using a flash hider, then people can't see where you're firing from. If you're using a silencer, they can't see where you're firing from or hear where you're firing from. If you're crouching or lying down, they can't really hear you. If you've got boots on, they can hear louder than if you haven't got boots on. For instance, if you're bare feet. So things actually like sound matters in that game. But it doesn't. Yeah, and it's insane the way they've done it. It's thankfully now it looks a lot better. It performs a lot better. You don't get Play-Doh houses anymore when you load in. One of the main issues, of course, a lot of people, with the map wasn't loading properly, they'd land and start looting something, and then the rest of the house would load in. You'd be stuck under the stairs. You'd be like, okay, my game's over.
Back to the wall or something,
Or you're driving and the map just doesn't load, and you're just like driving in just like an empty space, and then everything just pops up in front of you and you slam into a building. Video games are stupid sometimes, man. When things go wrong, like that's what I loved about Halo. Like when things went wrong, you could at least go back and watch a video of it and just be like, oh, that's what happened, you know? So I love the randomness of video games, and PUBG is great for randomness, for sure.
Well,
For
that's right,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it so much, especially when it's like it's random stuff like that, because I just find that stuff more funny than anything else. Like that type of stuff happening, I just find it's hilarious. Right? Okay, yeah, it's buggy, but it's not buggy to oh, this is annoying phase. It's more buggy to the hilarity phase. It's like if you don't laugh, you'll cry kind of stuff. You do
Exactly.
really well, and all of a sudden the map will just load above you, and you're like, oh dear, right, what's going on here?
That's not
It's like, I
great.
think I'll come back to this game after a couple patches. But that's how games release these days.
Yeah.
Well, we are an Xbox podcast, so I'd be remiss not to ask, what's your favorite Xbox game?
See, that's always it's always a difficult one. Obviously a massive Forza Horizon fan, but I still wouldn't, in terms of what would put in nostalgia roots, wouldn't put it on top of like what you'd think if you're talking decades later. I'd still not put Forza Horizon in a nostalgia type of thing. It'd be like, yeah, it was a great series, loved playing it, but it's not something I'm like really nostalgic about.
Yeah, not a Project Gotham or something.
So it would be a toss up between both Gears and Halo for different reasons. Halo, of course, it was more the first time ever playing that when it was in like, and everyone had them, the big old units in like game stores when they first released the Xbox, and it released with Halo, and having that force feedback controller for the first time, you're like, whoa, like this game is in. I need this game. I need this console. Like, get them both in my life now. And then playing it for the first time, and then playing like split screen co-op through the campaign for the first time and everything. It was just insane. So that got me into Halo for the first time, and much of the reason why I give it a little bit more of a breathing space in terms of like when things go wrong with that franchise, because it's still very much close to the heart, as many are.
We'll talk about
that. Yeah. And Gears as well. That was just it was just a whole new experience. The way they did things, of course, having the chainsaw gun for the first time, but then you think back to the original way that they marketed that game as well, as like a horror third-person shooter.
They used that good song.
Yes, they did. Yeah, Mad World.
Yeah. Mad World. Yeah. They're just like, a video game trailer shouldn't make you cry, but here we are.
It was just a well done trailer, but they knew how to market that game, and that's why that game got so many people interested in it. But then coming across like I keep forgetting the name of them now. I always keep trying to call them the Flood, but they're not. The Wretches.
Locusts.
Coming across the Wretches and everything for the first time. Like at night time in the oil refinery, and like they're all running across and like, God, what's happening? Like, what are these, and what's going to happen? And then they start coming after you, like hundreds of them. But just going through the first couple of games there as well, and that was insane. Like, I didn't play Judgment because I thought that was just completely aside from what Gears was trying to be. So Gears 1, 2, 3, insane. Gears 4 and 5 are different stories, but they've stepped aside from what I want them to go back to more of the horror-esque side of Gears, because Gears was more like a Dead Space light, should we say? It wasn't too horror, but it had enough horror and enough action in at the same time to make you question things.
I think Gears 6 is going to be like night and day from Gears 5 in graphics. They're going to be like, oh, you know how everyone says we're the best at Unreal? Here. Yeah. Look at Gears 6 right now.
And if you look at like what they've did with just that little tech demo just to show off, and they've made it obviously clear this has got nothing to do with Gears, and it's not like representative of actual in-game material right now. Like, this is just like cinematics, what you'd find in the CGI sections of the game, or our game. But what they did show there was more of the horror aspect of of a sequence again with like this bellowing smoke that just appears from nowhere, and then the guy's like scrambling to find something. Like that's the type of stuff that you want, like this edge of your seat, like intenseness that they
How
had.
it was like advancing on him too, like almost in like chunks. It was really cool, like very intimidating. And there was this like monster in the dark. So it makes me think that make the enemy you're fighting like scary again, you know? Like I'd love to walk into a room and see just
make
like,
it
a
like
bunch
a little
of
bit
red
more
eyes.
intense, just like not knowing what something is, and like it slowly, and not just like just appearing on you and there you go, there's a monster. Like introducing it in stages, like the first time on Gears where you come across the Berserker, and you're like, what is that? And you just hear them smashing people into walls and like breaking through things. You're like, what is going on? And like the hearing the screams and things from the Berserker on the first time when it's like revving up.
Have you ever seen the movie, what is it called? The Descent? That horror movie where they go into like the cave and it's like humans who just like evolved like underwater. So wouldn't it be cool, like considering the locusts are underground like that, if it was just a game where it was like the Descent and it's just this like horrific, like linear, claustrophobic dive into like the earth? I'd be into that.
Yeah. Because when you go down into this, it's just like going into like, obviously, when you go down into the horde, the where all the wretches and everything are in the game, it's more like this lava-filled area that's kind of generic. You're like, okay, like, this isn't like you want it to be a bit more scary, like you say in the Descent. Everything is dark, and they have their advantages. Like in Gears, that you still had the advantage. It was as if you were playing above ground, just in a different area.
So
they didn't have an advantage. They needed one, I think. Yeah.
Also, I hate like when you're like these games were, and like Halo Infinite was a bad bad for this, but like the dark just wasn't dark. Like having a flashlight, there was like no reason to have a flashlight in Halo at all. I would love to see like where your flashlight, just like in Elden Ring, where your torch is like essential, or you're like kind of fucked. Where and lighting can go such a far way, like flashing your light on the wall and like something turns at you and just like looks at you and you're just like, oh, I died a little. Like
100%. 100%. Like actual horror in video games needs to come back. Like actual horror. Like even if and I've mentioned this a couple of times, like Condemned, when Condemned first came out. Jesus Christ. Like that game. Like when the made
turn around and the mannequins were all different.
Have you played much VR at all?
That guy in the locker was the one that stands out to me when he's like, oh, take a picture, and you take a picture of the guy in the locker, and he's like, but there's something like, can you zoom in a little bit further? Because I would like need a little bit more. So you zoom in a little bit further, he jumps out, and you're like, oh. Like holy shit! Like where did that come from?
It's a Sega game, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Sega published that game. I think so. But that game needs to come back. But you were saying, Dan?
Oh, yeah. Have you ever played VR, Dutch?
Have played what?
VR, like virtual reality?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the horror games are going over to that like platform and everything because it's just so much more immersion. It's a lot more horrifying.
Yeah.
They're like, we want people to have a heart attack. Like, we're
like
going to make a game that kills a person.
Yeah,
even if you think like I was going to say, even if you think to like Fear and Condemned, that was very much psychological horror though, as opposed to just horror.
Yeah.
Like both, like again mentioning Condemned, there was a section, and a lot of people forget about this section, but it's a section with the mannequins, where you don't know what is a human and what isn't a human. Because they're posing as mannequins in the store, and then further down, you think they're humans and they're not, and they're mannequins. You're like, what is going on? And then they start appearing, like you turn your head, and then they'll appear, and it'll be right next to you, and you're like, is that a human or is it not a human? You shoot it, it's a mannequin. You're like, right, okay, I'm confused now. Like, I'm pretty sure that one moved over there, and then you shoot it, and it's not a person. You're like, what is going on? It's like really playing mind tricks with you.
that is a game that deserves like a remaster or a full-on remake. There's a scene with a bear in that game that is just absolutely terrifying. Like, it is so terrifying. Reminds me of that what's that movie? There was this bear where when it screamed, it had like a person's like yell in it. It was this weird sci-fi movie.
Annihilation.
Annihilation, yeah. That was Every time I see that, I'm like, oh, it's like the bear in Condemned. So that's such a good game, horror. But no, Gears is a good. I would say Gears is a good answer for sure. Gears and Halo. Halo's the safe answer, but Gears is a good answer.
Yeah, for many reasons, like I say, it was something that hadn't been done before, and again, it's a lot of things that they've based it on as well. And hats off to Cliffy B. He's said it himself. He's never managed to create something like that again. And obviously now he's probably not going to. I think he's looking to get back into video games, but it is what it is. It was still his baby, and it has went far away from what it was originally. Obviously, it's not to say 4 and 5 aren't good games. They are good games, but they're not the original trilogy for reasons that we've mentioned. They're not the same feel. They're still Gears games. They're still cover-based shooters. They still have a story related to the Gears universe, but they're not like horror third-person games like it was. It is a bit wild, but it's just what they did then that was different. The feel, the characters. Again, the chainsaw gun, which was insane, being able to chainsaw people in half. And
kind of bringing like that third-person stop and pop kind of gameplay to like a mass audience and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you have a look at a lot of the third-person games and cover-based games now, like even the likes of The Last of Us, etc., it's very much a cover-based system, specifically when you're shooting. A lot of them games, a lot of third-person games, specifically taking tropes from Outriders, taking tropes from that. Then of course we had Bulletstorm, which was awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bulletstorm was just Gears on steroids.
That's a fun game.
Yeah, now that we've got you here and everything, it kind of brings up the question, like, what got you into talking about video games online and everything, and joining up with people like Mr. Boomstick?
Yeah. So much like I think a lot of us over the last couple of years, the pandemic got us into, we play video games all the time anyway. We talk about video games all the time anyway. We talk about it with our friends, which is exactly what kind of our group of people are anyway. So our podcast is just a lot of friends that have been playing and talking video games for years. And we're like, okay, well, I'd like to try and get into some podcasts. So I put a post out like a couple of years back now, just saying I want to like guest on people's shows and say how I find podcasting in general first. So I put a post out on Twitter and asked around at the time and said, right, okay, I'm open to doing this. If anybody wants us on their show as a panel member, let us know. And I got Boom, Mav, Iron Lords, RDX, all of those contacted us straight away to get us on their shows. I got on those. And soon as I had that, I had more of a bug about speaking about like on camera and talking to people and things straight away. So I spoke to all of my guys and said, listen, I think we could do this. I've spoken to quite a few of them. It seems like it's pretty easy. You just use StreamYard, which is free. We just used a free one at the time, which was even better because it was only 4 of us. We didn't need that much. We didn't need to pay for anything at the time, so we just knocked up StreamYard, started it. The first episode's still terrible. We still look nervous as hell.
Look at me, I'm still nervous as hell sometimes.
Like, we're also like, it's weird, like gaps in like when we're talking, and like I mess up the intro and everything like that. And It's weird looking back at it, and the quality of it's terrible. The camera quality's like really bad, like old. Like I was only using like now I'm using an actual webcam, but then I was using like just a built-in like camera on a really cheap laptop, and dear God.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was specifically more because we had a lot of free time on our hands thanks to the pandemic and being in lockdown across the world. Let's say at that point,
Yeah.
everybody couldn't do anything. So it was like, right, okay, well, we've got lots of spare time. Specifically in a time where in lockdown, people were trying to find ways and means of separating themselves from everybody else in their household to be able to have your own bit of spare time, because spending that much time with family and friends, regardless of who you lived with, can put a lot of strain on any relationship, family and friends or partners, whoever you're with. And it did put a lot of relationship strains on across the board. So being able to break away from that and having your time to do what you want, and kind of have your own free time to enjoy yourself, etc., as if it's like some kind of separate world, was kind of part of the reason to put it together in the first time. And I think that worked. It worked really well, and it drew a lot of people in as well. And I think even a lot of these podcasts as well have built awesome communities, because it's specifically over the last couple of years, small and large, because it's got a lot of people through some really tough times in lockdown. Some tough times potentially with relationships or breakups of relationships thanks to lockdowns. So it's built up a lot of people like that, and I think ours has grown from strength to strength because of the community, not because of what we've created. And we've only just, essentially, we always bring in the community with it as well, because we ask the community for feedback and what would you like to see more of, and how would you like to do it, and so the collaboration with the community and the feedback from the community is what's kind of kept us going. Because if it wasn't, it's a lot of money to outlay to get a podcast to where it needs to be in order to be sustainable. As you probably well know yourself, it's not just in a monetary sense and in a time sense, and the amount of time that you need to put into getting out of it needs to feel worthwhile. If you're not enjoying it, then there's no point in doing it. Like countless hours. I mean, we've at best you spend 5-6 hours even on just one episode getting it ready. And if you're doing videos alongside that, then there's another 9-10 hours per video that you're doing just to get a video out. And then sometimes you do overlays, then you have to do the guest preparation. As you know, guest preparation can be difficult and painstaking at times.
Thank you, Dan.
But then the larger you get and the larger the guests you get on, then it's even more of a ball ache than just community creators. It's more just right, let's get the time right. That's fine.
Yeah.
The larger the creator you get, the larger the channel you get, then you start to go in the realms of developers and studio heads and people working at some of the companies that you're supporting. And those become even more difficult, because then you've got to go through PR teams and HR teams, and sometimes people that are getting representing the people that you're trying to get on, and then it's email-based stuff, and then having to schedule appointments, and then schedule appointment to schedule an appointment, and then it becomes even more of then it is a second job, and that's it's if it wasn't for the community, people much like myself and your channel, no doubt, and Booms, etc., we wouldn't be continuing to do what we do, because it's a lot of spare time. A lot of time goes into what we do. Even though it doesn't look like it. Like, it looks like we just turn up. As you know, it just looks like we turn up, do a podcast and go. But obviously, you know, beforehand, you've got to do the preparation on the topics. If there isn't any topics there, you've got to think, what the hell am I going to talk about?
Talk about.
And this is why, like, we've had a specific break this week, because it was a case of, like, sometimes you feel like I'd be doing a disservice to the people that listen to the podcast when we're trying to force conversation. And if you're forcing conversation, it's not really natural. And then it becomes like more of a strained show, and you're just like trying to get it over with just to say that the show's been done for the week. I was like, nah, we'll just this week we'll just knock it on the head. It's like it is a strain, and sometimes it gets deathly quiet, and you've just got to come up with stuff off the top of your head.
We're in this weird calm before the storm right now, I feel like.
It is. Yeah. It is. And it did the same last year. And then the tail end of the year went nuts. And it was just loads of stuff. And then the beginning of this year, we had the Activision Blizzard acquisition by Microsoft. Yeah. Like, oh, God, this is a hell of a start of the year. What's going to happen? And now here we go again. Like, quiet.
Yeah. Everybody's playing
quiet. Yeah, they're just like give it breathing room, right?
Yeah. But yeah, it's what started as friends talking about video games, etc., is now we have this awesome community, and we're essentially ensuring that we're creating something awesome for the community, as opposed to the opposite way around. We're enjoying it, we're still enjoying it, still love it, but we're always thinking about what next, what can we do to improve, what can we do to take that next step up, because it's both easy and frustrating saying things, specifically with YouTube. One day it'll perform amazing, the next one, even though you've done nothing differently, doesn't do anything, doesn't perform. Yeah. And you're just like, what is going on? Like I had one, like our podcast usually range, and obviously we've got about 1,300 subs now, but we usually range in like the 300 to 500 view mark now. Then one out of, for absolutely no reason, I don't know why, but then YouTube decided to put it in the suggested or recommended playlist thing. So it went from having 300 views a week later to then having 3,000 for no reason, absolutely no reason. It's now the most viewed podcast we've had, and we've not and it wasn't even that great. It was just an average podcast. Like, we didn't have any guests on. Like, we've had Miles, like, the week before that we had Miles Dompier, the week before that we had Jez Corden, the week before that, it was like all these awesome guests, and one that had nothing on, just normal us. And even, like, my camera was stuttering and the audio was lagging a bit. And I was like, it's not even a great podcast. Like, this doesn't represent us properly. Like,
yeah.
It's funny. We had one like that a couple weeks ago. It was just me and Dan, and I don't know if it was because of Starfield in the thumbnail, but it's one of our ones that actually hit the triple digits.
Yeah,
and I'm like, why did this one do that?
Yeah,
but hopefully other platforms can start like blowing up. Like I just wish everyone would just use like everything, so everything would be like the same across the board. This competition, in my opinion, is king. So we've been like throwing our stuff on like Rumble, and we put our stuff on YouTube and other platforms here and there. So we try our best and see what. Hopefully, we can get monetized one day and get that Manscaped that
the Manscaped ads on here.
It doesn't work for the beard. Right? I haven't used it on this at all. It's
just all up there, right? Not even trimming up the edges or anything?
What was that?
Said not even trimming up the edges or anything?
Oh, no.
Touch up? No?
Free flow now. Yeah.
The last question, and we'll get into our topics. What are some of the other hobbies you're really into besides like video games?
So I really love art, as you've probably seen before. So I've actually ended up my love of art and my love of just creativity in general into gaming, as you've seen with creation of custom consoles and controllers and things like that. So art is one of them. But I'm an outdoorsy person when time allows it. So I love hiking, walking. Going to the gym. I'm an adventure, like an outdoor adventure, extreme sports type of person as well. So I used to mountain bike a lot, more free riding and downhill than anything else. And of course, one of my things, I still need to come over to Canada, go to Whistler, and go down there. It's specifically in the summer, not so much in the snow. I don't want to ride a mountain bike down there in the snow. But go to Whistler in the summer and ride down the routes there, because that would be awesome. But yeah,
First land in Toronto.
Yeah. But no, love all the outdoors type of stuff. But I'm very much for like an extreme sports person. So when I travel, I'm always looking to do different things, whether it be 4x4s, ATVs, off road, and jet skiing, and scuba diving, swimming with sharks, swimming with whale sharks, and like all that stuff. Like love it. But yeah, love obviously going to festivals. I'm literally just anything and everything. To be honest, I'm a very should we say trying different things, like trying out new experiences.
Adventurous.
Yeah, very adventurous. But very much a movie buff as well. I can also be an extreme hermit and just love to stay in and watch films all day, like loads of different films. So yeah, it's complete two opposite sides of the scale. Either extremely adventurous and always out, or never leave the house and watching films all day. So yeah.
And then the pandemic kind of forced that lifestyle. He's like, oh look, he's like, I can deal with that for a while.
Yep. Too right.
Absolutely.
It's good to hear. No, getting out is key. Like I love going for walks, especially with the kids and stuff like that. Try and get them out and having fun. And actually took my son to see a movie. The first time he ever went to a movie in the theaters. The other day we saw the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Nice. It was a good film to take him to.
Yeah, right? Like, I was like, oh, a video game movie, a character I loved when I was a kid. So, and now I'm like, are you fast like Sonic? And he'll look at me and he'll be like, and he'll put like a running pose on and he'll just like, these things like, yeah. But no, that's good to hear that. I saw pictures of you up on like a mountain. Like, where was that?
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, that was weekend just gone. That was in Cumbria, which is in the UK. It's a place called the Gables. That's actually, they're not that high. Not the highest in the UK anyway. But they were only about 1,200 meters above. Sorry, 1,200 feet above sea level. So high enough to have snow on the top, not high enough to the point you need oxygen tanks.
Thank God.
But yeah, no, there's a few higher. But no, it was, yeah, we did eight peaks that day. So it was eight peaks in about 8.5, 9 hours.
Nice.
So it was, yeah, good going, good hard effort.
Yeah.
All that Elden Ring, you're just like, over that hill, I have a feeling like if we just jump down this mart, there might be an item down there. You're like, what the no, sorry.
There was a lot
too much Elden Ring, man.
There was a lot of sections where it was trying to get us to go around certain peaks, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I was like, I'm not taking that, because that route's going to take us a good another hour and a half, 2 hours. So I'm going to cut across this definitely not planned route that's right here. That could be pretty dangerous. So
let's do it.
Let's go. Exactly what we did. It was not good on the old legs, but it got us there quicker.
Oh heck yeah! Do you have to have any rope or anything, or just
no,
good on the old
not
boots?
these ones. It's there's a lot of scrambling, so it's a lot of like on the sides of these ones. It's more like a lot of broken rock, broken boulders, and things like that. So it's more just clambering over things than anything else. No, it's thankfully no ropes required for these ones.
Nice.
So to be fair, it would have been a blessing in disguise if I did have a rope or something to try and help us get up easier. But no, it's good. Really love it.
Oh,
That's
heck
good
yeah.
to hear. All right, well, let's get on with the show. We have a couple topics that we're going to get into, but every time we've kind of talked here and there, I've always found you'd never really shied away from talking about NFTs. It seems like you're kind of into maybe exploring the topic a little bit, and I thought I'd talk a little further about that with you, because things are starting to blow up. So NFTs seem to not be going away, and could be potentially coming to titles like Grand Theft Auto 6, with everyone trying to get into this metaverse, companies like Apple potentially announcing a VR, AR headset. Do you find NFTs has a big future in shaping the gaming landscape and this metaverse landscape?
It depends. It could get into it. It depends on how they're put into games. If, for instance, they're just doing them as a non-harmful one-off thing to NFT enthusiasts that might want to get an NFT for a favorite game that they've got, but it isn't mass marketed and it's not for everybody. It's just for a set audience, or we have 50 of these NFTs for this game. If you invest in us, etc. Let them do what they want to do if that's the case. My problem comes when they try to involve NFTs into the mass market like they would a microtransaction. That, I think, can be an issue, because that's still a form of crypto in general is still a form of gambling. You're investing in something that might or might not make a profit. You don't know whether or not it's going to ever make a profit. A lot of the times it makes a loss. It is a form of gambling in certain circumstances, and you can't, specifically getting into microtransactions as well. There's sections of Europe that have banned certain things like loot boxes. And so the likes of FIFA, etc. You have to know what is in a packet if you get it. Certain things you can't have over here because of that. And I think with an NFT, it's like, oh yeah, you've got this item. You can sell it back at some point in the future for an undisclosed fee that you might or might not have. It's a weird route to go down. I don't know how they're going to balance it, but I can already tell you which companies are going to do it anyway. Rockstar probably will. Ubisoft is. EA will. Square Enix probably will. It's more companies that are more focused on how they can earn money than what is going to benefit the consumer. Because from a consumer perspective, NFTs do not have any benefit to a game consumer.
In my opinion, it's hard in the form they're in right now to even justify the purchase of them, because so in my head I kind of look at the future like kind of like Ready Player One. We're going to have this Internet 3.0 at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like when companies like Apple come out with their VR AR headset, when Microsoft Mesh starts becoming more of a thing, when Facebook finally comes out with their AR glasses, who is going to build this Internet 3.0? And that's where I think NFTs can become interesting, when this item I buy can actually scale into a virtual world that scales across many different worlds. Kind of like Ready Player One. I open a door, I'm now in this race world and stuff like that. But I'm still myself. I still have my avatar. That pin I decided, or that jacket I decided to purchase in this NFT store, actually comes with my avatar and becomes more of an actual item. Like I can't understand in my head, like, these people who are buying essentially JPEGs. I'm like, where are you displaying these things? Like,
yeah, and they lose the this is the problem as well, that people think that all NFTs can be worth something, and that's not true. The only NFTs that are worth anything are from actual legitimate artists, like not just from random people. Like if you have the actual the buyback or the sell-on costs of normal NFTs across the board, it's minimal, like 20 quid. $20, $30 at most is the buyback, which is nothing. Like some guy, all these art like bits that are across here that have been hand drawn by a guy in Edinburgh that I got them from, called Nick Harrigan. Like they're three for £25. So it's like three for $30. Like that is art. That is art. Now he's not going to sell them as NFTs for 30 each.
Yeah.
That is an artist there doing all those things. Like, and this is why, and then people are just making these random pixel things and put them as an NFT and trying to sell them, and then wondering why they're not selling. It's because you're not an artist. Like, the only ones that are actually making money are artists. If the likes of, for instance, I've forgotten the famous artist that does all the graffiti, Banksy. If Banksy did an NFT, that would sell for God knows how much. You know it would, because it's a Banksy NFT. But the problem is like you say, it's a JPEG. Everybody can have it at all times. Like, I don't know why they say it's a non-fungible token. I'm sorry, but as soon as you put an image on the internet and somebody puts it somewhere, it's already been stolen. It's gone. No longer worth anything. You've lost all of its value.
See, and that's what I was saying. That's where like this Internet 3.0 can come in, where like this object I'm holding in a virtual space has its own code attached to it. So like, let's say if I handed it to you in the virtual space, I actually handed you that object. Like I can say, hey, you can own this now. Like this is yours now. And I actually gave it to you, and transferred code like that would just be, I don't see that being a bad thing. I feel like people have this weird kind of stigma to it these days.
I think that would be great. That in theory would be a great option to have, where if you bought something like that and it was transferable across many metaverses, that would be great. The only problem we've got, of course, as we know it, is we have a gaming industry that operates across multiple engines, where character designs are varied at best. And like you mentioned, in the likes of Ready Player One, your one character is that character no matter what game world he's going into. He's always the same person. He's always designed the same. He always looks the same. He's just wearing different outfits at each one of them. Of course, we know as the game world stands right now, you're always a different character. You're the same person. So to get to that would be the stage to get from where we are now, where everyone's on a different engine, producing different things with different main characters, different stories, etc. To where we would need to be for NFTs to work in the way that would make sense is light years away. So far away.
It seems like NFTs are a lot earlier than they should be. Like they're just like way before their time, and like as interesting as they are, like it's like a weird piece of like digital just information that you can really copy, even though you've got it like just marked with a code basically that's saying, oh, it's unique. Yeah. It's like I'd be interested to see like real world purchases even end up in a lot of these spaces and stuff too. Like I buy like a car or something, and it's like, okay, well you get an NFT token with that, and that works for multiple racing games or whatever.
Yeah, you can get unlocks in Forza and GT. Like if you buy this car, you've got an NFT, and it allows you to unlock the car in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant.
I think that would be great.
In your virtual world,
Yeah,
in your
that'd make
Horizon
me want to actually get an NFT or something. Like right now, it's like
I was going to say on the flip side, then you've got to think of what like Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation could do in terms of what would essentially be like what Oculus did with a lot of the chat room type of things, where you can create your own character and dress up as your NFT things. And Microsoft have avatars. Sony don't anymore. Nintendo did have the their little Wiis, whatever they were. If they had a combined metaverse where all three platforms had their avatars back and they created a unified avatar system, I think that would potentially work, but that would be outside of the game thing. That would be like a game hub world kind of metaverse thing within a game. So it would be unrelated to all these major franchises that we have, but then it would still be more like an Oculus side of things where you have this, but then we've got all of these related mini games that you can go and play. And I think that's
VR
potentially... Yeah.
Have you ever tried VR chat? My
Yes.
wife is super into VR chat. She's like very far down that rabbit hole, you can say.
Yeah.
And she will play games like Among Us. There's a whole VR chat room that is like Among Us. There's golf chat rooms. There's all that. So I feel like it comes down to whoever can make, I keep on saying it, but like this Internet 3.0, this virtual world where the hallways in between these worlds is a compelling enough engine to make everyone want to develop into that world.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of just combine what our next topic is about. Sony investing $1 billion into Epic Games, because I feel like it kind of meshes with this. They invested $1 billion into Epic Games to further advance their engine ambitions and their metaverse ambitions. And I think that we were talking about like the Unreal Engine kind of cannibalizing that the engine market.
Yeah.
I think they want to do something one step further. I think they actually want to build that Internet 3.0. They want to build the 3D space that is the in-between spaces, and everyone can build using their engine because everyone uses their engine. And it can scale to anything. I think that's why they focus so hard on the open world aspect of their engine, and that's what they really enticed even big developers like CD Projekt Red into using their engine.
Yeah.
What do you think of that whole? Because they already invested like $200 million like a couple of years ago, and now it's an extra $1 billion. So, like, are they going to stop using their in-house engines maybe going forward? Maybe even stop supporting Steam?
Oh no, I don't think Steam will ever stop being supported. I think that's too big. That's a universe into itself. That.
Yeah.
But on Sony side, I don't think they'll ditch their own engines. But Unreal in itself, I think, and we have to give plaudits to Epic here where it is due. But also let's say to their partners, because we know the partnerships with Microsoft on the technology front really helped push that engine forward as well. But when we're talking about the metaverses that we're speaking of these days, metaverses such as your Fortnite, which we spoke about, where it's you have a game, but then you have games within games within games within games within games within games. You can just continuously create game modes with the assets that you're given, and that's why the metaverse increases. And you can spend these tokens, but earn these tokens in every of the game modes that somebody creates, no matter what it is. And your skins can be used in whatever it is. So if you buy these skins, you can go through here, and they're limited to every season, so you're never always going to have them. So I can see the likes of Epic or Fortnite, etc., also introducing the likes of NFTs in the future, because they just put a skin there that is related to this NFT that nobody else can have unless you have this particular NFT or you've purchased this NFT, etc. I think Sony on their side as well, they don't have a metaversey section, they don't have multiplayer, but they are investing in games of a service and metaverses. Specifically for that, they see the potential of what a metaverse can be. Xbox have a few that they could potentially expand into that. We've seen what Sea of Thieves is.
I was going to say Sea of Thieves.
Yeah. Every pirate's different. You can combine different hats and hairstyles and beards and clothing and weapons and different shades and colours and dye your hair and go this and do that, and all your ships all different every time, and you can mix and match different parts for everything, and different adventures all the time, and nothing's always the same. You can now plant treasure throughout the map, so people can go and do your treasure hunt as opposed to doing the treasure hunt that somebody else has done. There's so much that they're investing on that side. Then you have a look at what Halo Forge is going to be, and they're saying that is the reason it's taken so long is because we're including everything that's ever been included in any Halo into Forge, so you can create literally anything using anything from any Halo in Halo Infinite's Forge, which is why
that would be mind blowing if they did that. If they essentially Super Smash Brothers Unlimited Forge mode.
Well, that's
amazing.
what they're saying. They're saying the reason it's taken so long and not ambitions for Forge is to include all the assets from every Halo game. So you can use anything from any Halo to create whatever you want to do.
Just not all the weapons yet. You know, they'll slowly piece those out over time.
Yeah, slowly.
Slowly.
Yeah, but the ambitions of Metaverse and what it can be is to be able to have areas that the community can create where it is then a self-sustainable community. You provide them with the monetary aspect in order to invest in your game, i.e. microtransactions, whether that be buying your newest costume or newest hairstyle or new emotes or whatever it is to stand out and be unique that you want to do. That is their monetization part of it. What they're doing on the metaverse side of things, and this is why Sony are intrigued, is a game that is then self-sustainable to the point where the microtransactions become a requirement rather than just an addition. If you build a game that can then create more games within its own game and continue to build a community that then just is everlasting without ever having to do anything else to the game, that is the essential part of a metaverse game, something that is community driven. So essentially, you give them all the tools that they need to in order to make that game better than it ever was.
Well, Dan will be right back. Don't worry.
Okay.
But imagine, like, Minecraft is a great example of that already. Like, you gave everyone the tools to do that, and they kind of built the world for them, and they even have the marketplace in
For a second.
in Minecraft to monetize. Like, there's full companies that will make worlds, and they gave them the tools to even purchase it. It's funny, Meta, formerly Facebook, just announced that they are giving their Horizon players, so they have their own kind of VR chat. It's called Meta Horizon, and now they are allowing their users to actually build items and worlds and sell them. Funny enough, they're taking like a 47% like 50% cut from every sale off it. It's just an outrageous like number. It's like Roblox numbers where they take like everything, and I think they give like 17% to these like children who are making like, it's essentially just child labor, but which is great.
But Minecraft is a really good thing because even I've bought Minecoins before because I've seen like some absolutely incredible things that I would never have the time to build. And like you mentioned, they've got these companies of people that are building these absolutely insane worlds in Minecraft, and you're just like, how? Have they built some of these most intricate, like, one-to-one scale Death Star and things like that? You're like, Jesus Christ. Like, there's a lot of effort. That is a lot of effort and time. But then you see, like, it's fascinating to go onto YouTube and see these teams of people when you see them in like one of those, what do you call them? The, like, hyperlapses. When you see the hyperlapse, like, how things are built in Minecraft. Like, right, this is this, and then we're going to do a hyperlapse of, like, the team building this entire, like, city.
Time lapse.
Yeah. From scratch, and it's just seeing it all go up, and you're like, that is a lot of coordination and effort from everybody involved, and they deserve some kind of monetary replication for that, because that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Like, months and months of work. Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's like when everyone was starting to freak out when Flight Simulator had like a jet, and that jet was like $20, and people are like, Microsoft's charging microtransactions for these jets, and I'm like, no, that's a modder who actually like made that jet himself and coded it, and they are allowing him to sell it on their marketplace and make a living off that. So that's cool.
Yeah. And it's like, if you have a read of it as well, I've got the, I think it was, I've bought the F-16 and the Spitfire. And I'll look at the one specifically. If you have a look at the details underneath in the paragraphs, the creators tell you how it's been designed and the work that's been put into them. And like the F-16 and everything like that, and there's a Project Concorde is ongoing at the moment as well that I'm following. And obviously they're recreating the Concorde from scratch and putting it in the game. Really? And they're working with the original manufacturers of the Concorde to make sure the aerodynamics are correct, etc. And the dials and the speed and everything matches up correctly because they need it to handle correctly. They need like everything that... And obviously, you know, if you've ever seen the inside of a Concorde's cockpit, it's
incredibly... Yeah. So like if you're doing a simulation, like that is hard work to get that all simulated properly.
Yeah. And and these are things, of course, that are ongoing, and it takes months and months of work behind the scenes, testing, collaborating. Like a lot of these designers as well that have been put into it work with Asobo and Microsoft to get the aerodynamics correctly, to make sure this is right and that is right, and then they'll go to the original manufacturers of the engine, like the Spitfire did, and they went to record all the engine noises with actual Spitfires to make sure that the engine noise was actually correct for what it was in certain rev cycles, and whether or not it was starting up or shutting down or doing certain turns and things like that. So the amount of work that goes into some of these things are insane, and that's where metaverses really stand out, because it allows people that aren't necessarily developers to create things that other people can enjoy that they wouldn't necessarily put that much time or effort into creating themselves.
Mm-hmm. And I just I love the idea of just like making a living off digital items. And Gabe Newell from Valve, he said he loves NFTs because he's been doing NFTs for so long. Like look at Counter-Strike. Like if people are complaining about NFTs now,
all the knives.
Yeah, all the knives, the skins, like, and they cost, but the only difference is instead of it being on the blockchain, it was just real cash. So that was like the biggest difference. But some of these skins were like thousands of dollars for like an AK skin for your gun in Counter-Strike. Man, you're dedicated like at that point. But that's essentially was a blockchain in itself. Those were NFTs. And no one was saying anything about that. I feel like because Steam was doing it, it was fine. But that's what Steam Workshop is all about.
You know why they couldn't say anything about that, though? It's because unlike
don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Well, no, unlike a JPEG where it is literally copyable, the in-game item is not copyable. There is no way to take that from a person unless the maker of the game decides you're not having that anymore and takes it off you. Like, that is definitely yours. So once you've purchased that for whatever you've purchased it for, that is yours. Nobody else can have it. They can take a screenshot of your gun, but that doesn't mean they've got it. Yeah, it isn't replicated in any way, shape, or form. It's not like I've just downloaded a picture here and that's mine now.
And they can sell those skins again after, right?
Yeah, we resell them. Yeah, it's insane. There was so many different big things within. Yeah, the CS:GO economy is just wild, and they've got that whole weird gambling thing as well that I noticed like years ago, where people would, I forgot what it was. It was like higher lower type thing, and they'd have to like figure out when to drop out, and then they would like treble the amount that they earned. I was like, what is
also?
Like, I don't understand this.
There was this whole like gambling scandal where it was like the people who like ran the gambling website were like pushing it onto their streamers. while playing, and they're just like, oh, check out this app, the CSGO website, you know, you can get it and look at these skins you can get. And then you look into who owns the website, and it's that guy
Yeah.
selling you the snake oil. So, but you know what? That's the world we live in. Any market that shows up, there'll be scammers in any kind of place. It's funny. I think there was a politician saying they want to turn Canada into the crypto capital of the world, and the person was asking, he's like, "Oh, aren't you scared of like scams and stuff?" I'm like scams in like real cash, like in bank scams. I'm like, scams are going to show up no matter where. If there's money to be made off it, scams will show up, sadly. But that's the world we live in, right? But NFTs, I think they're definitely not going to go away. And as soon as like Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, and they're just like, oh, you can buy plots of land, and like people are selling like art and stuff. Like, imagine like in Grand Theft Auto 6, an art gallery pops up, and you can buy an actual painting in that art gallery that can go into your house. And there's like only 100 of them, but it's an actual painting, like that skin, you know, in CS. But, you know, and then somebody comes into your house and be like, oh my God, you got you know, you have like an original Snoop Dogg or whatever, like whatever it is, you know? But
I feel like that's where it's eventually going to go. It's going to be like real world integration, and it's going to be like, like you buy a new car, you get a like copy of that car in a virtual world or something. Like you buy something in the virtual world, they ship you over like a replica of whatever you bought. Like if you're buying a new gun or knife or something, you get a replica of that. If you buy a car for real world money in a game or something, you can go pick it up at the dealership or something. I don't know, something like that could be interesting.
Yeah, where it's like a tangible thing. Like I feel like, and like kind of going back to what we were talking about, like I feel like all these like JPEGs and just like pictures, they're not like real. Where like a CS:GO skin is something like you can see and hold in the game, and no one else can like take a screenshot of it and have it. You know, if you can turn stuff into that, man, it wouldn't even be cool if there was like a lobby in like your Xbox dashboard where you could like display your achievement trophies and just like have things like that. I like the idea of digital goods, so I think it's
the only thing I was going to say the only thing I'm against is when you see these NFT voice things that some of these celebrities are doing. They're just like, oh yeah, we're working with this NFT voice company that's going to use X, Y, and Z. I'm like, you're just going to put yourself out of work, is what you're going to do.
Or what was it?
That means that you never ever need to act ever again, because your voice has essentially been replicated forever in AI space, and now you don't ever have to do anything. So, and they don't have to pay you either, because they've replicated your voice. So now they own your voice.
Yeah, I can only understand that for, let's say that for people who like narrate documentaries and who are about to like pass away, like that one guy who narrates like every nature documentary.
David Attenborough.
David Attenborough. Like if he passes away, that will be like, we can't lose that voice, right? Like we need, and I think they're actually actively like trying to do that to his voice. There's some people where it's just like, it only makes sense if they're about to, you know.
I feel like it's going to be historical at some point too. It's like with these simulators and everything, they're making every little detail. Like eventually you're not going to be able to see like a Spitfire in a museum or something. Like they'll all have worn away. They won't exist anymore, but like you'll still have them saved on a hard drive in a million different places somewhere. Right? Yeah. Like that's a whole lot easier to store and everything than an entire airplane and maintain it and keep it from degrading and everything. And like you're going to see every little detail, and it's going to be interesting. You'll get voices from actors and stuff creating new content that have been long past and everything, right?
Yeah. Well, didn't Ubisoft help when that church burned down in
Iceland or
No. It was not like the Notre Dame, but it was that really famous church in Italy, I think. or whatever. It was this very famous church. It burned down a couple of years ago. It was absolutely devastating. But Ubisoft from Assassin's Creed Unity had the whole church scanned, and they actually worked with the church to use their 3D so I almost feel like for historic reasons, like we need to do that to preserve our history, because things like wars will break out, like wars going on right now, and they will just destroy history. Like I remember listening to this one guy who does kind of like Ancient Alien kind of stuff, but he was a U.S. Marine, and he was just watching people just destroying these Mesopotamia, like ancient statues, and you're just like, what are you doing? Like, it's history, and I feel like video games has a opportunity to that's getting onto a different conversation, but has a great opportunity to to kind of preserve history right there.
Yeah.
Because we lose so much, right?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, off the NFT topic, more on the complaining about Halo topic, but hopefully not complaining about Halo for much longer, because I feel like the proper team is on it. So we got confirmation that Certain Affinity has officially announced that they'll be expanding the Halo Infinite in the future. And based off their 15-year history with the Halo franchise, I feel like they're the only support studio, in my opinion, that should be dealing with this franchise. I almost feel like they should have been like the people to take over the franchise after Bungie. 15 years is a long time to work on Halo, and it feels like everything they do with it, they tend to do a good job. Like the anniversary editions, the anniversary of 2 multiplayer, like some of that stuff just looked absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't say they were the reasons why, like, let's say the anniversary edition came out in the state it did, but they definitely know the franchise and make good stuff. And hearing this, it sounds like those Battle Royale rumors are going to be coming true. Dutch, how do you feel about Certain Affinity as a studio and taking more of a lead role on the franchise?
Yeah, I think 343 need the help. I've said since again at launch, I give them the benefit of the doubt, and said, give them a little bit of time. Let's get it right. We're talking now 6 months into launch, and we're getting 2 maps. I don't understand what the entirety of 343 are doing. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of heads there. What the hold-up is, or what the issue is. You can't have that many people working on bug fixes. You can't have that many people working on, like, where's all the weapon skins, where's all the armor skins, where's all the maps. You can't have 400 people working on what are they doing? So I think
even just co-op for the existing game. Like, I just want to play co-op for the campaign, you know?
Yeah. I don't understand what all of the staff are doing. Like, it can't take that many people to create new maps. It can't take that many people to create skins or weapon armors or whatever it is. It can't. There is absolutely no way it can take that many people out of a team of like 400-500 staff, whatever it is they've got now, to create
it's outrageous.
More basic of stuff. And then come up, and we're still not getting them till May, so we've still got another half month to go until this 2 maps release. And then we don't know when we're getting another how many maps, whatever it is, and that's only one arena map and 1 big team battle map, so it's not going to do anything. Like, it's within the space of a week or 2, it's going to be back to square one again. From when it's released.
I feel like they must be working on Forge or something. Just get, like we were talking about earlier, get that community building going and everything. Like, make those tools as fleshed as possible so that people can just start building and create, like, the community creates sometimes the best content.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe they're thinking too, like, in my opinion, they should be focused on Forge the most if you have a lack of content, because the community will build your content for you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're trying to be super ambitious with Forge and include, like you were saying, like every single item from the past 20 years of Halo, in my opinion, don't at first. Maybe have like hold some stuff back and be like, oh, this season it's the Halo 3 season and we're dropping all the Halo 3 like items and stuff like that, and just like all these things. But I feel like Forge needs to be a priority. It should have been out yesterday, in my opinion, because the community will carry your game for you until you can have, in my opinion, I think they're working towards like a Taken King moment where they will actually abandon the Xbox One platform. And if people do want to play it, they can play it through the cloud on the Xbox One platform still. But I feel like that console is clearly holding that engine back. They're still very capable consoles, but there's clearly something that some memory bandwidth, like leakage issue. There just has to be something going on with the engine itself, because what did they say? It's like a modified Halo 5 engine, like heavily modified. And that is like a heavily modified of the Bungie engine, which Destiny is a modified version of that engine. So you can say almost Destiny and Halo Infinite run on they have like a similar DNA inside. Like, call Bungie, ask them, like, can you get our engine working a little better? Like, Bungie clearly has figured out their engine, which is just upsetting to see. But I think
Certain Affinity being on board is only gonna surely more heads and more hands on deck is going to help push things along quicker.
Yeah.
And specifically having Certain Affinity there for what looks like the multiplayer aspect will help get more maps, more modes, more out quicker than the 343 team are doing. Because I personally don't understand why so many people at 343 are working and not littles coming out of that studio right now in terms of extras. Like, if you have a look, you only have to look at what the team at Rare are doing at Sea of Thieves to see just how much content you can put out when a full team's working properly. 343 is clearly not working to the best of their ability. In terms of, and I don't say that in terms of the staff, I mean in terms of the organisation. The way that is organised, it's clearly still not doing it very well.
Yeah, clearly not. And the fact that they have to even bring Certain Affinity to take such a major role is almost seems like they should maybe think about maybe even abandoning Halo Infinite and going right into a sequel and just being like, hey, that 10-year plan we were thinking about just didn't work out, and this is
it's the same with Destiny. Destiny was a 10-year plan.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And now we're on Destiny 2, but at least they say. But sometimes you gotta kind of take the egg on the face and acknowledge that first outing of that kind of new idea you're going for, the new engine, just didn't work out, and just kind of build something from the ground up again. But it sounds like Certain Affinity will be bringing a Battle Royale to the table. I always thought it'd be cool if the Battle Royale would be ODST. Like, bring ODST back.
Spartans, make it ODST. That it only makes sense then, because if you're doing Spartan Battle Royale, then it becomes pointless, because everyone's a super powered ultramarine, whatever it is that you are, that is essentially unkillable. ODSTs are humans. They are just tactical, essentially like your US Marines or your Special Forces operatives, but not overpowered, like mutated genes or anything like that, where they don't have feelings.
Or like the Navy SEALs or something, you know? Like the SOCOM team and stuff like that. Yeah, like
exactly. And obviously, and it makes also then sense dropping in because you have obviously your drop shot pods. Just
it's literally in the name, orbital drop shock trooper, ODST. Yeah. I'd love to do that too.
It makes sense from that perspective, and that's the route they should go down. Like, don't have a battle royale where you're all Spartans, because that just granted it'll be fun for the first couple of times, but then it'll be like annoying because everyone's exactly the same. Where ODST makes it a little bit more realistic.
It would be interesting to see if it's like a farther generation of Spartans or something, because they've been kind of meshing the ODST and the Spartans a little more as they kind of progress.
Yeah, they're like weak Spartans.
Yeah, exactly. They're weaker. The super serum or whatever they were taking is a little gentler. It's less deadly and everything, but they're just as strong. And it's basically Captain America and Iron Man suits. So, like you have a hard time pitting those guys against each other and not feeling kind of outmatched, or like, how are you doing stuff?
I don't know. I seen Master Chief naked. I didn't feel that much outmatched.
Yeah, I've been taking some liberties with that show.
Yeah, for real.
I knew the helmet would be coming off, but
yeah. I didn't know I'd see his ass, but there it is.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I could see it still being fun, like riding a warthog around the map and everything, and getting sniped or rocketed out of that, or it could still be fun.
The only thing I don't know is how they're going to do weapons and weapon attachments and things like that, or whether or not they're going to bother with weapon attachments.
Yeah, and if it is like the later Spartan generations, then you can have, different helmets with different special abilities in the helmets or whatever too. Like somebody's got night vision, or somebody's got heat vision, or you can target and like track rockets or something with certain armor pieces or whatever. It'll be interesting.
Do you remember Halo 5? They had so many different versions of the guns that you could pick, like ones that had like stabilizers on the front of the gun to make your flinch, your recoil not as bad. They even had ones that had like energy swords on the end, and you could like one-hit melee kill people. So I think there is a framework for attachments in Halo, but they would need to add like almost like that button in Crisis where you can pull the gun up onto the screen and you can just like pick on the gun in real time in front of you, or kind of what they do in Battlefield 2042. But I feel like ODST is like the way it should be, because instead of calling it Halo Battle Royale, just call it Halo ODST, like again or something. But I feel like who's that guy who came in, Joseph or not?
Joseph Staten.
Joseph Staten.
Yeah,
who came in. He came in and he worked on the original ODST and brought in that firefight game mode into the Halo franchise. And they just even updated Master Chief Collection to add Flood firefight mode into ODST, which is awesome. I'm like, hell, Master Chief Collection's getting more content than Halo Infinite, which is outrageous. Just think about the fact that the game is almost a half a year old and we're getting 2 maps. Like, I'm just thinking about what you're saying, Dutch. It's just like, just repeat in your head. We're getting 2 maps.
2 maps.
Yeah.
The timing of this announcement with Certain Affinity seems like it coincides perfectly with the lack of updates and content that we've been getting from the actual in-house team. And I think the backfire they would have got as well is when they made that announcement for the new season, they're like, and 2 maps. And then seeing how overwhelmed people were by that.
Yeah.
I think if they were like, just tell them that you're working on something, will you?
Yeah. Just
like, be more transparent.
You might get a third one by the end of the season.
Give us a more clear roadmap.
Like Certain Affinity's teaming up with them. I think the relief, if you see the comments underneath Certain Affinity, it's more relief. They're like, oh, good. Someone's working on something.
Right. It's like they're a good team. They're reliable and they do good work. And they've had a long relationship with Microsoft. Like clearly, I'm surprised they don't own them. Maybe they're thinking about purchasing them. I think they're waiting for all this whole Activision senators.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's going to be a few smaller ones announced when this Activision one goes down. As soon as the Activision one's signed, sealed, and approved, they'll be like, and and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one.
Isn't election season coming up?
Couldn't tell you about have actually been signed.
Yeah. Isn't election season coming up? They'll be like, yeah, we need some generous donations.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why you always follow Nancy Pelosi and her stock purchases, and you'll become rich. So, but it's good to see that Halo is in good hands going forward, and I look forward to the announcement of this inevitable Battle Royale mode that's coming. So I hope we get our Taken King moment essentially in the future of Halo. Any kind of last thoughts? Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, and take that Warthog off some sweet jumps.
I just want to see Forge World back. Just give us Forge at this point. Just give us something at this point, and not just 2 maps. So they didn't even announce like a new gun. Like I'm like, you already have the guns. Like you already have the guns from Halo 5. Like all programmed. Like you can't tell me like you can't just pull like the Magnum or something out. It's outrageous. So I'm a huge Halo fan. So I'm starting to get impatient with that game. So it's just sad to see 343 take it to that point, considering the release cadence of Halo 5 of actual content. We got a nice release every single month for Halo 5. So it's just based off that based off that experience, it's kind of shocking to see how much they fumbled the ball on this one. But hopefully Certain Affinity can kind of bring things back. But I don't know. I don't have much more to say on Halo. I think we kind of made it to the end of this show. I don't want to keep you up all night, Dutch. I know it's super late over there. So I don't know if you have work the next day. So I think we'll end it here.
I'm up in 3 hours.
Yeah. So
nice.
We very much appreciate you staying up for us. So thank you so much.
No, it's been awesome.
We do it later because we have kids to put down. So I'll yell at my daughter and my son for you tomorrow. So don't worry about it. I'll be like, Dutch, he told me to give you a hard time. You're like, what? But Dutch, let everyone know where they can find you. I'll put your information in the description for sure. But what are you doing? Where can they find you?
Awesome stuff. Yeah, thanks to both of you guys for having me on, and obviously getting this set up. It's been a blast. It's been good conversations. Had fun. Very much so, and of course, all the best to yourselves and the future of your channel as well. I'm looking forward to seeing what else you can do. Really cool stuff so far. Obviously, you've had Ham Solo on, you've had Boom on, you've had a few others on. So, looking forward to seeing where this goes. Of course, I'll be usually catching them on after the fact because it's way too late to be catching them.
Yeah, same here. I can drop into a stream here and there, and I'm like, and then my kids will distract me, and I go quiet for a bit, so I have to catch up. Yeah.
But yeah, you can find me, of course, everywhere at Wondering Dutch, and our podcasts are every Wednesday evening, UK time, 7 o'clock. I don't know what time it translates over to Canada, but in Eastern time in America, that's 2 p.m. Yes, also on Sundays as well, for the weekend edition of the podcast, and that is just half an hour earlier, so 6:30 p.m. or 1:30 p.m. Every Sunday. So yeah,
it's around 1 o'clock, I think, around our time, around that. I remember it coming on. So nice. No, it's always fun to hop in the chat, and you have community streams, so you guys can even play with with us here and there. We had some fun playing Halo 5, I remember. So
Yeah.
you got to come play some Sentry with us. We've been really liking
Yeah,
that
it's
game.
downloaded.
Yeah.
It's downloaded. I
Yeah,
definitely need to do that
you got to try that. It's really
Yeah.
fun. Well, thank you again for coming on and staying up so late. I'll let you get back. I'll let you get some sleep for sure. But again, thanks for coming on, meeting Dan.
Very much,
I'm
absolutely.
I'm sure we will
It's been a pleasure.
talk. I'm sure we'll talk again soon, and try and have you back on. Maybe I'm trying to, you gotta love when they're like, "Oh, no more E3 this year," and I'm just like, "Well, our first episode of the podcast was our E3 predictions, so thank you very much for that." So maybe we can, if they announce some big show, maybe we can get you back on to get some predictions out of you. But Dan, take us home.
Alrighty. Yeah, don't forget to smack that subscribe button on our YouTube page and tippity-tap that like button. You can comment on Dutch's sexy beard. And find us on audio only on Spotify and Google Podcasts. Just search relentlessly for Xbox North Podcast. We're also on Reddit and Instagram. Take a look for Xbox North Podcast. And for Twitter, @NorthXbox, because why the hell would we make it easy for you?
There you go.
All right.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.